Okay, here comes the overreaction again to game one, the Lakers Suns series. It's Monday. We saw a great game by the Suns, who just came out and just didn't look afraid. But guys, remember, this is game one. We saw this last year against the Rockets and the Blazers with the Lakers. They came out a little flat in game one of both those series, and immediately everybody's like, "Oh, the Lakers are in trouble. Lakers are in trouble." Okay, this is what they do. Okay, they're going to make the adjustments, and I think the Lakers still in six in this series. But the Suns did show something that we didn't expect. And in the beginning, I'm thinking when Chris Paul gets hurt, I'm like, oh no, not again, not the Chris Paul getting hurt in the playoffs again and messing up the Suns' chances and frankly just robbing us of a good series. But you know what? He came back out in the game. He didn't look quite right. He couldn't really dribble with that right hand. You saw him drop the ball so many times, just fumbling it and just didn't have any confidence in that right shoulder. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw CP3 miss dribble, like not have any handles, right? That's what he does. Right? So that's something to watch for in game two. Um, Devin Booker. Devin Booker breakout party. Is it really a breakout party, though? This guy's been dealing for a while, right? It just hasn't done it at the big stage yet, hasn't been able to get his team there. Now, that team was incredibly young, and, the Suns team has seemed to have grown up. The Lakers, you saw it with Vogel, they decided to try to come out and double team Booker a lot early, which is something that last year they waited for game two to start doing that. If you remember that Rockets series, Rockets won game one, and then game two, they just literally took the ball out of James Harden's hand. They did the same thing with the Blazers. Blazers won game one. Okay, the counterpunch was take the ball out of Dame's hands and make the other Blazers beat you. This time, it didn't work. It didn't seem to work. I'm surprised Vogel went to it so early in game one. Saved that for the counterpunch. But I think the Suns' design for the plays, just getting Booker open looks, was incredible. Like that drag screen, the dribble handoffs, the pin downs to get Booker going downhill, especially when Andre Drummond was. They got Drummond in a lot of action. So the design by Monty Williams and whatever the coaching staff is for the Suns to get Booker downhill against the Lakers worked tremendously. And they seemed to know what to do when the Lakers sent that double team. They would flash to the middle, whether it be Mikal Bridges or Jay Crowder. They would find that spot in the middle. And now it's going to be really interesting to see. And this is a lot of the time with Chris Paul was out of the game. Like, can you get away with that early double, especially high off the wing? You have guys who know how to make plays. Like, eventually you might see Chris Paul doing the flash to the middle. Well, what do you do then, right? So the other thing we got to talk about is DeAndre Ayton was the second best player on the floor. You had Booker being number one best player on the floor. Then you had Ayton being the second best player. Against LeBron and Anthony Davis, he was just more aggressive. He was 10-11 from the field, 21-16. He just seemed to pop out on the screen, and he was just the more aggressive player, right, all night. You know what's interesting, too, is if you look at that draft, 2018 draft, Ayton was the number one pick. Luka was the third pick. Jaren Jackson Jr. was the fourth pick. Trae Young was the fifth pick. I know there was a swap between Luka and Trae. And they all got wins. Guess who the Kings picked? Marvin Bagley with the number two pick. You had a 1 in 5, like you had 4 out of 5 chances to pick an impact player, and they ended up with Marvin Bagley. The poor Kings, poor Kings. Stat of the day for that game. Lakers were out rebounded by 14. 14. I haven't heard anyone talk about this. And the Suns were also +8 in the paint on a team with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Andre Drummond. You cannot be out rebounded 14. That is incredible. I just could not believe that. And they had +8 points in the paint. Like, Suns only have one big, really. It was Ayton. That's how good he was. Okay, now, they were +16 from the free throw line, but they only shot it like 60%. That's brutal. That's just brutal. Anthony Davis was a -18. Okay, when the Lakers play this Davis-Drummond lineup, you have to put Drummond in the dunker spot, which is that little spot down low, like a little bit outside the paint. The idea is that you coming downhill, you can catch lobs. But the problem is it puts Anthony Davis at the 3-point line because you have to create space for LeBron. Now, Davis is at the 3-point line. He is almost forced into jumpers. They're not running the pick and roll with him because the paint is clogged up by Drummond. He's not there to get offensive rebounds. And I feel like he feeds off of that energy of getting easy buckets. That will help us jumper when he's struggling with a jumper. He can do other things. That's what makes him a superstar, right? He can do other things. But when he's standing at the 3-point line, he can be guarded by the smallest player by the Suns. Okay? That's not what you want. So I feel like now Drummond only played 19 minutes and he was, he had 12 points, 9 boards. He was a -4. But I'd be interested to see if Vogel just goes away from that sooner and just starts playing Kuzma a little bit more. Kuzma only had 19 minutes in this game and 0 points. So maybe not. We'll see. Braun wasn't very regressive in this one, which, and again, it was the same kind of story as last year. Game ones came out a little bit flat. He was hitting the 3 early. He was 3 for 7 in this game. He was hitting the 3 early, but he had 5 turnovers in this game. And this is what happens with Anthony Davis. This is why people get frustrated at times. He does disappear from games. He did it all the time last year. But you know what? He after a bad game, he always followed up with a great game. Adjustments for this game, I think the Lakers should make. Stop playing Drummond so much, unless there's foul trouble and what. I would put Kuzma on Booker. This double teaming action did. Now, again, this is a caveat if Chris Paul is healthy or not. This double team that they were sending at Booker really early didn't seem to work. They need to try to play straight up with Kuzma to get a little more size on Booker to make him make those contested mid-range jumpers all day. Like if he makes that all day, you live with that. That's okay. You live with that. You don't let him get, to the basket. You don't let them get easy open shots. I mean, Suns have easy open shots all day because of that double team. And they knew what to do with it. So let's see what adjustment Vogel makes. I would love to see Kuzma, who is a good defender, play more minutes instead of like KCP and Schroeder and Caruso on Booker. Get a little more size, make him shoot over the top, maybe even put LeBron out there on certain cases. And maybe you can slow him down that way. Is CP3 going to be healthy for game 2? That will be the big story. But I expect the Lakers to come out a lot more aggressive in game 2 and get the win.